I guess, watching the last two episodes, I figured it might be pretty difficult. It would be really difficult if you hadn't watched the movie night to follow the conversation at all. So, in hopes that movie night itself and the show are standalone, I'll try to do my best to recall exactly what happened in Honorable Men, film one that we watched last night. And Honorable Men was about a cop. The film was from 1995, right?
2004.
2004.
2004. What are you talking about? It must have been something that was waiting release because nobody would touch it.
Aesthetically 95 and filmed in 2004.
I'm not sure where it came from. Looked like someplace out of the Midwest, and the attitude was very much that as well.
Virginia, I believe. Virginia. There were plates all over the cars in the beginning with Virginia, and at the end, it's thanking the state of Virginia or something like that.
Newport News.
Okay, well that adds up. If you see some of the Satanic Panic response we get out of Virginia from the after-school Satan clubs and stuff like that, it seems like Honorable Men might be something that would come out of there. But it was clearly a vanity project, written and directed by the guy acting in it. And that I didn't look up for confirmation, but it just seems so obvious that I would be shocked if either of you tell me otherwise, because it was all about how the protagonist was the perfect man, the perfect cop, and this one woman should have loved him, but she didn't love him enough because she cared too much about other people's opinion about their age difference. And this is when the film really started feeling like I said in the comments, that it should have been titled Restraining Order, My Side of the Story, because he starts putting the moves on the high school age daughter of one of his workmates in the police precinct. And she apparently falls for him, according to his telling. And he leaves her gifts outside of her window and things like that. She ultimately tells him that the age difference is too great. He's arguing the case that she cares too much about what other people think. He drags all of this into a movie for no reason whatsoever. And all the while, he's busting drug dealers who are exclusively black. There's all the minority characters in this movie are criminals, and there isn't a single criminal who isn't a minority in this film. And so you see where the strict divisions are between like good guys and bad guys in this film. The pedophile stalker is the good guy, and not only a good guy, but the goodest guy. And he philosophizes about this openly. There's even a scene where he's sitting with a priest or something, and he's asking who's there for the hero, because he recognizes so self-consciously what his role is in the universe as being the incorruptible hero. And all the while, the high school lady who left him is falling to pieces, and he has it tenuously tied to these drug dealers and stuff like that. Apparently, she was tied to that, and the only way they justified that idea is by him saying at one point that she was, or she called him up at one point and was complaining that he had busted a lot of people she knew, a lot of her friends, when he was rounding up prostitutes and drug dealers and stuff like that. And then, like some of the most self-aggrandizing narratives ever, he gets shot at the end during a drug bust or something like that, and he dies, and everybody, I think, weeps and wails and realizes that the best person in the universe is now no longer with us. Is that about it? That was about the movie, wasn't it?
That's about it.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Drug investigator Ryan Smith faces the toughest decision of his life when he discovers that the woman he loves is involved with the same drug dealers he's arresting. Now he must make a choice between love and honor.
Director Garrett Sayer will be available for discussions after most showings and will be scouting for talent for his next movie.
It wasn't enough that he had fallen for one high school lady. Then there was a love triangle where another one was also interested in him as well. And they didn't talk about exactly how large the age gap was supposed to be. But the guy looked like he was at least 40, and they were supposed to be in high school. And there's also the awkward scene where he's talking with some of his fellow officers, and he was complaining about women and how they're really pretty much only good for fucking. And I thought that was a really bizarre thing to say too, when he was kind of like between two daughters of officer companions of his.
Both of the high schoolers were daughters of co-workers, right?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I thought even
Both
because
of
there's
them.
the blonde one and there was a brunette one, and I'm pretty sure that they were both daughters of people he was working with.
Yes. Mandy is the blonde. Casey is the brunette. They know about each other, and they are not happy with each other whatsoever.
Oh, and there was that really unlikely scene where he leaves the household of the blonde one, and her father says to her that he's worried for his feelings if she decides to start pursuing him, because, you know, he's a good man and he doesn't need, you know, this slutty daughter of his breaking his heart or whatever. And I thought, okay, that's another fucked up twist in the narrative here. Like his 40-year-old friend is hitting on his high school age daughter, and he's worried that his daughter is going to exploit that guy.
Yeah, he gives her the old "not this one" or speech or whatever, and as if to say that she had done this before to another coworker friend of his.
The scene that got me was the makeout scene on the couch where Ryan leans in to make out with her, and it looks like he's going to chew her lip off, and he's just like consuming her face. And towards the end of that scene, you see her hand come up on his shoulder, and a quarter second later the scene cuts, and I just thought, this dude is getting way too into this.
Yeah, they really closed in on it too, and they were just sucking away, and he didn't cut anytime early. It's like he felt like he needed to justify taking all that footage by leaving an extended scene in there. So I bet it took a lot of inducement on his part to get her into that role so intensely anyways. But yeah, that was a scene that was only made for him.
A lot of sucking and dry humping.
And a lot of like kind of amateurish, childish interpretations of what even being in a relationship or having sex looks like at all. Like the point where she's in the kitchen and she's like, "If you want it, come and get it." And they go running off into the bedroom or whatever. I was thinking like, this probably is an incel's interpretation of optimal reality. This is how it works. You start leaving gifts outside of her window and she's not allowed to say no.
How about the beach scene?
What about the beach scene?
It was pretty sexy.
Oh, you're talking about the one where he was eating out the blonde on the beach
Mm-hmm.
in broad daylight. And you imagine that there's like kids building sandcastles 20 meters away or whatever, and he's just going to town. Yeah. Yeah, but that first beach scene with the brunette, when she ran off and said, "I guess you don't want to see me anymore," or whatever, and then he went to console her or whatever. Was I just high, or did they just go nowhere with that and suddenly have him back with the blonde girlfriend again?
Yeah, that sort of dead-ended quick, didn't it?
Because to my mind, he reconciled with the brunette, and then next thing we knew, it was back to this narrative about the blonde. I could be wrong, but I felt like, and we weren't invested in any of these love stories anyways. I was, and it didn't tie together with the work he was doing, busting drug dealers and stuff like that, other than, like I said, that brief moment where they try to justify the connection between the two by him having the phone conversation with the blonde who says, "You're putting away a lot of my friends," or whatever, but that was it.
Speak for yourself as far as the love scenes go, because I was glued to that part.
You're getting into it, huh?
Really, really. Yeah. It just kept switching back and forth, and I was trying to follow it. I was on the edge of my seat.
You were on the edge of Well, did you find the pacing good? Like, or did you feel like worn out and exhausted by the time the first movie was done? Because I kind of had that, I kind of anticipated that, and that's why the next two I felt were much faster paced and more credible films.
Actual movies.
Yeah, yeah. Because I knew Honorable Men was going to be a ride.
That's a rough one, not only for the quality of the filmmaking itself, but just the script and
The troubling themes.
I just can't imagine a world in which making a movie about an older cop dude dating a high school girl, not just one but two high school girls, and that just being like the hero narrative. That's insane to me. In
His
2004,
co-workers'
even.
daughters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and on top
Yeah.
of that, his co-workers' kids.
Let me say, I'm honored that Luther is here, but I also feel like I should have shit. I should have maybe saved Honorable Men for a week where Liz was going to be able to talk about the films, because I think she would have had some real opinions about this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Liz is missed for this episode.
Honorable Men was so bad that I feel like myself sitting here and just being like, what can I say? So would you would you recommend Honorable Men even for comical purposes? Like, what are the circumstances in which you would put Honorable Men on for people?
Sensitivity training.
That would be an interesting exercise. Tell somebody to watch Honorable Men and ask them to read between the lines and see where maybe this guy was interpreting reality in a way that wasn't maybe quite there.
Yeah, there's really not any aspect of this movie that I could give like a thumbs up to in good conscience. Like, the quality was terrible, the sound was terrible, the music was especially terrible. Like, the music is probably the thing worth watching this movie for because it's so bad. And the writing was terrible, the concept was terrible, the plot was terrible. That being said, it's pretty much the perfect movie night movie, and it was a good movie one. I'll say that.
I am ashamed to say that, yeah, it is a good movie night film. You're then wondering, how did this really go? Where did these scenarios really derive from in this true story? You know, what would her perspective be?
I feel like this could be used to probably uncover some true crimes that happened.
What's
What
the
a
legal age
shit
of
movie.
consent? The legal age of consent in Virginia.
It's got to be low. It's got to be amongst the lowest.
It makes me wonder. That movie makes me wonder.
Anyways, fuck that movie. I'm glad we watched it. It was entertaining.
Agreed.
Next.